I think I know almost everybody. For those of you I don't know, I'm Chris Kraft. I'm a Senior Director of Product Management for Hubbard One. I've been around for a long time, and I have presented this topic or a similar topic for the past few years, and I love doing it. It's probably one of the most fun topics to present because I get to show lots of fun, shiny pictures. And before lunch, that's important because I need to keep your attention. So today, though, we're going to talk about engagement, and in particular, we're going to talk about driving engagement on the web. And we're going to look at a lot of examples of what law firms are doing and what's happening outside of the law firm industry to engage their audiences online. But I thought before we dive into those examples, we should probably start with a definition of customer engagement. And it's pretty simply put, it's making a deep connection with a brand, ultimately which translates into loyalty. And I think we all know great examples. Apple's a fantastic example of a brand that has emotional connection, makes emotional connection beyond the products. If Apple made a toaster, we'd probably all buy it. So it's not about the products, it's about what their promise of ingenuity, innovation, and thinking different. Nike's another great example. Lexus, the automaker, another great example. What's really interesting, though, and this was a survey of B2B and B2C marketers, 300 of them. The size of the firms were $500,000 and more, so that's about AmLaw 60. So they're big corporations. Big firm would be the equivalent. Customer engagement is really important to them. And I think that's conceptually that makes sense, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would deny that. I'm not sure about the 3%. They're probably out of business by now. But what I think was more interesting is that they are actually measuring, managing, and talking about this with the board of directors, the CEO, and other leaders within the business. And it is the responsibility of the CMO. That's you. It's your responsibility to set the strategy, direction, and execution on customer engagement for your firm in the same way that these business-to-consumer and business-to-business CMOs are doing for their firms. And the reason it's important is because it has a direct correlation to the performance of the business. Whether you're managing sales impact, brand awareness, profitability, customer retention, the more highly engaged your customers are, the more profitable your business will be. And in law firms, we talk about this a lot. There's cross-selling, there's client team programs, there's relationship management. That is all about customer engagement. The challenge with that, and Tom Stewart talked about this yesterday, is that the customer is totally changing. Over the past few years, the sales cycle has shifted to a buying cycle. These buyers have more information than they've ever had about you and your firms, about what other people think about them, what work you've done, how well you've done that work. In the same way that I have more information around digital cameras and camcorders and DVRs. All that information is readily available, and it's available through social networks, it's available from your phone, it's available on websites. So they are empowered, and the problem is they don't have time to pay attention to you. They are busy. They're working off hours. They're connected 24 hours a day by this BlackBerry or their cell phones. And they don't have time to go do all the research themselves. So they rely on their friends and their peer networks and other people's ratings, anonymous ratings, to sort of make decisions for them. So your job as marketers is to engage this customer that, one, doesn't have time for you, and two, knows more, as much as you do about, and maybe more in some cases, because they're talking to people that you're not talking to about your business. And there's a term for it. As easy as it sounds, this is Customer 2.0, to go right along with Web 2.0. So I'm going to do a quick survey. Show of hands. How many people feel like this generally? Maybe not today because it's beautiful here and we're relaxed and you all just got back from the spa earlier this morning. You know? Yeah, so that's called the frazzled customer syndrome. So your job is now to connect with this frazzled customer. Remember, your CEOs, board of directors, they care about customer engagement, and this person is not paying attention to you, or not likely to, unless you really provide a compelling reason for them to engage with you. Microsoft actually is using this as their campaign for Hotmail. The new busy. It's not like the old busy. The old busy was just busy, but this is the new busy. We have more to do than we've ever had. We're understaffed. The economy's taken a toll on everybody. You got kids, you got homework, all these things are sort of distracting you from actually engaging with those people. And Microsoft's saying, we've got a product that can help you organize your life. On the web, customer engagement is a pretty simple concept. Taking visitors and driving results. Setting goals and driving results. So I came up with a model that I think will work pretty well to sort of think about how customer engagement fits in that life cycle. So assuming that we're all doing the things we need to do to drive visits to the site, brand awareness, content marketing, SEO, banner ads, whatever it might be, getting visitors on the web to the site. That's the price of admission. Engagement is keeping them there. Repeat visits, more clicks, longer visits. That's primarily the focus that we're going to talk about today. But it all is it's not for nothing. It's for results. You've got to sort of begin with the end in mind. What do you want them to do? For law firms, that's downloading content, picking up the phone and calling a lawyer, signing up for events, whatever it might be for you. In the consumer world, this is called conversion. Putting something in your shopping cart and then paying for it. So engagement is what we're going to focus on today. What can we do as marketers to reach that customer 2.0, the frazzled customer, to keep them engaged with us online? So I don't have any slides other than this one point, and it's a different color for a reason, which is you've got to have content. It's got to be valuable. If you don't have content, no matter what I talk about for the next hour, it won't matter. You've got to have well-written content that's meaningful, that provides value for your audience. So I'll leave it at that. I could probably do a whole hour on just that alone. But for engagement beyond content, 3 key things to think about. 1, you've got to make it memorable. You've got to invest in great design. The technology is there to go beyond colors and left side navigation and do you want the logo in the top right or the top left corner? We are well beyond that. Make it friendly. Integrate with social media platforms. It's a fundamental shift to the way consumers, especially B2B, and I know the panel yesterday talked about we don't really pay attention to social media. I've got statistics from B2B businesses that are telling you otherwise, and if those lawyers aren't on there, it's probably because we haven't done our job as marketers to engage them in those environments. And make it mobile. A couple years ago, when I presented, I was sort of defining what Twitter was and just introducing the concept. I think mobile is that version today. So mobile is new for firms today, but it's taking off like crazy, and we'll talk about that as well. So think about the users. I got rid of my BlackBerry 3 months ago, and I couldn't be happier. There's things that I can't do with email and calendaring that are a little bit frustrating, but the fact that I'm so busy when I'm on the road, and I need to like pay a bill, check my balance, book an airline ticket, I can do all of that on my BlackBerry. Whether it's an Android or anything, smartphones are enabling me to be more productive because I don't have time to like wait till I get home to do that. So we'll talk about ways you can execute on a mobile strategy. And from all the research, what I saw, and you'll see this in the examples I show you, the customers that are the companies that are doing this well are doing all 3 together. It's no longer acceptable to have this little thing on the side with social media, and we'll try a little mobile site. It has to be a cohesive plan. You've got to treat all these as if it's one comprehensive web strategy. All right, so let's talk about investing in great design and making your sites memorable. I mentioned about technology. This is the golden era of web design. The tools and technology, Flash, Ajax, Silverlight, these are rich experience tools. You can develop the boundaries are sort of broken down with these tools. And web designers aren't just creative designers who put things on the left and right. They have to know interaction. They've got to know functionality. It goes well beyond just colors and lines. It's 3-dimensional now. Sorry, under the idea that we need to invest in great design, we're going to talk about 3 different categories. This rich interface and imagery, navigation, and site search. So we're going to talk about how all those can sort of be leveraged to engage your users online. Nike. If you haven't been to the Nike site lately, you should do it. You go in there, you pick which country you're in, and you're hit with this amazing high-definition image. It's actually not an image, it's a video with stereo sound sort of blaring out of your machine. It makes you want to put your running shoes on, grab your friends, go play soccer. it is unbelievably empowering. I'm not sure there's an equivalent for law firms, but I think the idea here is that the imagery is what brings you in. I don't think you can have them putting their suit on and running into the court. That may not inspire people. But I mean, just the imagery itself sort of sucks you in. It's much more three-dimensional. You'll see some examples. Even the background image there is the actual, like a football field or a soccer field that's on the site. You'll see some examples of that, what law firms are doing with that today. If you scroll down below the fold, they've actually taken their products and created these little postcards at the bottom with bold images, clearly identifiable product names or categories. So it's just another way to engage the user to sort of to dive into the site. Now you still have the traditional left side navigation where you can navigate to the different things you want. But even that's changed. When you click on those, it launches you into a whole entirely new site. This is the running site for Nike. It feels like a poster. Or my iPad. You've got things just sort of sitting out on the desktop. You can click into images. They have sort of broken down the sort of traditional navigation barriers using imagery to make it three-dimensional. And all the same stuff is there. You can still go there and connect with your friends online and upload your running maps and do all the sort of networking things you do. You can get information about their products. You can watch videos. But really, really interesting. And they've taken advantage of this imagery to run campaigns behind the scenes while you're sitting there looking around. So if you just wait for 10 seconds, you get a whole other campaign that comes up. And if you see in the top left corner, there's some buttons to click. There's a yellow one and a purple one. Those change depending on what campaign they're running. So they're able to bring you into the site further and engage you through the use of this imagery and these things changing behind the scenes. Urban Daddy. So I actually discovered this site, not from the site, but through my mobile phone. I actually got the app first. I was looking for an interesting restaurant in Chicago. I looked up restaurants on my iPhone, and I got Zagat and the normal ones, but I got this thing called Urban Daddy. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm urban. I'm a dad. I'll check it out. And when I did the research, I went back to see what the site looked like. Really compelling imagery. Speaks completely to the demographic. 30-plus men with kids who think they're cool but are no longer cool. This was a joint effort by Urban Daddy and Lexus, the automaker. So you'll see this feels like a Lexus automobile when you're in there. It's very rich. It's very regal. So you pick the city, and I'll take you in. I'll show you some more examples of that in a minute. Contrast that with what my other option was, Zagat's. I could have done this. It's got tons of examples. It's got a great history. It's got ratings. This felt much cooler to me. And I actually used it more. So great information only gets you so far. You've got to have imagery, brand, to bring you in and engage the audience. So when you actually get into Urban Daddy, inside there, what you have are promotions. And they could have listed them out in the little boxes or text-based links and then have me take them. But they've created essentially the same postcards with calls to action, pictures of the restaurant, pictures of the program that they're trying to promote. So really bringing you in, using that design. You see the leather sort of top header there, sort of reflective of like a black leather seat in a Lexus automobile. Really using imagery to sort of reinforce that brand and engage the user. And big, bold postcards at the bottom to get you to follow them when you're not online, on your mobile device and in your social network. Accenture is a firm that we always use because I think it draws good parallels between what you can do if you sort of have very large marketing budgets and that correlates sort of more closely to what a law firm can do. And so you see they've got similar. They've sort of expanded the footprint on their homepage. They're doing brand campaigns with large images. Elephants now, no tigers anymore. More interesting, though, is how they've managed to take a practice group and the related content to a practice group and make it engaging. It could have simply been a couple of links on the right-hand side with, here's the related publication you might be interested in. Here's a podcast you might be interested in, the text names, which is typically what we do today. But they've created this interface that if you click on, this is number one, it shows a publication, gives you a preview of the publication. I can click to download it. If I click on number two, it's a podcast. I can click play it. I can listen to the podcast right there. Much more engaging. I spent a couple minutes downloading the publications and listening. I spent at least 5 minutes listening to the podcast just to see what it was like. Totally different way of presenting that content in a much more rich interface. Baker Donaldson, this is one of my favorite sites. I love the imagery on this thing. I love the way the main site actually floats above the image. Think about Nike. We saw that site with the football field in the background. They've got different images that float behind this and sort of really bring that site up forward. Lewis and Roca, another great example. They've got brand campaigns around forward thinking, innovation. They have case studies highlighted by really great images. If you click on them, they take you into the actual case study. On the bottom left, they've got similar to the Nike profiles at the bottom. They're not colored because I think they wanted to keep the focus at the top of the page. When you mouse over them, they highlight in color. So they've got success stories, client profiles, best of the best. Those are really similar to what Nike was doing and also what you saw on the Urban Daddy page at the bottom. So using those postcards to sort of pull that out and make it three-dimensional. Going in an entirely different direction, Cravath, which I think still works. I think it's different enough to where it still works. They've got their name in big, bold type at the top, but it's supposed to look like a newspaper, read like a newspaper, feel like a newspaper. It's still engaging. The storylines pop off the page. You've got some utilities at the top. I think if you look at the New York Times website, a little bit of imagery on this would make it feel like the New York Times website, probably bring people in a little bit more. But interesting way to sort of take the print style and bring it online. I found this one in my research too. These guys, I think, were up for one of the awards, one of the design awards. I don't know if they won, but I thought it was really cool. So they've taken, which is a sort of very two-dimensional, flat, print-style layout, and they've done something really cool. They've added this location-based marketing to it. So when you actually go into the website, it can tell where you're coming from, or it thinks it can tell. Because we're in Eagan or St. Paul, our servers are in St. Paul, when I'm on the corporate network, it thinks that's where I'm coming from. But interestingly, it actually said, hey, we have people close to you. Here's the people that are closest to you. And by the way, we have people in London. Imagine having someone go to your website and on the right-hand side saying, oh, here's our closest office. And by the way, here's the people that love to have lunch with you if you have a chance to get to the city. And doing it automatically based on what we already know about the browser session. So another level of engagement there on what is a sort of a pretty two-dimensional print style design. This site, I think, is one of the coolest sites I've seen. I think it's a small firm, but it represents a cultural commitment to customer engagement online. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. Like, great look and feel, the website, the front, they're using sort of modern, rounded sort of design elements. But when you get into the featured cases, they've got these like rotating case study postcards. If you click on the one on the right, everything slides over. It's very interactive. They've got blogs being fed in. They've got their Twitter feed showing up dynamically below that. The bios are revolutionary. They actually have a personality to them. I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but Jay Edelson here, they have his mobile tool. If he's got a BlackBerry, they've got a little image of a BlackBerry. If he's on an iPhone or an Android, they have an image for that. How many cups of coffee he has every day? One guy does 6. I don't know if I want to work with him. Tells you what city they're in and whether they work best day or night or both. It's got interesting things about what's on their iPod. Though they still have the old bio. All that stuff's down below. All the boring bio stuff. But it has to be there for SEO and for the people that want the meaningful content. But this is an engaging site. It actually makes a personal connection to you. I think design brings it forward. And they've got some Q&A stuff at the side that also gives them a personality. I thought really interesting execution. But this is not just design execution. This is a fundamental commitment across the firm that says we want to really think differently about how we engage our audience online. All right, that was rich interfaces, rich imagery. Let's talk about navigation. Last year it was called mega menus. I'm calling it extreme navigation because there's some really interesting examples that go beyond just mega menus in terms of how you can navigate a website. At the end of the day, general counsel want to get to information fast. They don't want to be screwing around trying to browse through 10 different links to get to it. Once you've got that visitor captured, you need to engage them. You've got to give them the information they're looking for quickly. And that's what navigation is all about. Porsche understands this. They've done a phenomenal job. They've taken mega menus to an extreme where you pick the car, you pick the model, and then it gives you probably the 3 to 4 things that you're going to want to see with that sort of one navigational click, with the opportunity to drill into the specific details that you actually care about, but bringing all that stuff forward much quicker in a really engaging way. Jones Day just launched this site earlier this year and has done the same thing, taken mega menus, but from one click on the experience section, you can actually browse the practice groups, you can read case study highlights, or you can search experience yourself. So really bringing all those options forward in a navigation item to allow the user to decide how they want to interact with the site and how they want to engage with the site. And the idea of having them stay and click a few things that they didn't know they wanted to click on, I think the sort of imagery and the highlights really allow them to say, I was just looking for some experience, but this looks like a really interesting case study. I might want to check it out. WilmerHale, also a relatively new site. Similar concept. Within the navigation, it feels like its own web page. And at the top, there's sub-navigation that allows you to sort of drill in and get to that information further. And I didn't point this out before, but look behind that. Great imagery, case study promotions. Really, really great job. And they've taken the advantage of the below-the-fold content areas to basically blow out the sitemap. So if you don't want to search for something, you just want to get to something quickly, people always look to the bottom. They've actually blown out the entire sitemap on the bottom of the site. So when I talked about this last year, a couple years ago, there were no law firms that were doing this sort of expanded below-the-fold sitemap. Now we're starting to see more and more of that. It's very prevalent outside of legal. Ewing Cole is an architecture firm, which I thought had a really interesting interactive navigation. It's not mega menus necessarily in the way that we just showed you with Jones Day and Wilmer, but really interesting use of imagery. They're an architecture firm, so every few seconds that image behind rotates to show off some of the work they've done. But across the front, those blue boxes, those are their practice groups. And as you mouse over each of the practice groups, they expand just a little bit to give you a piece of information with a Learn More link. So rather than giving you just a drop-down list with all the content, they're actually making it interesting, allowing you to sort of surf over and see what's behind them. Even the top navigation, which is a bit secondary to the practice groups, when you mouse over that, this big black shadow box drops down and it sort of has that sort of mega menu feel. So you can sort of see, you can span and see the whole site underneath those sections without actually even clicking. You sort of mouse over those things and they drop right down. So great use of imagery, interesting use of navigation, and design. Mofo. Similar only in the sense that it's sort of typography based, but really there's 4 or 5 big areas they want you to sort of learn about the firm. I know the site's been very controversial on all listservs, but I still think it's just different and engaging. And actually, it's kind of curious. When I'm on the site, I want to see what's going on there. You click into This is Mofo, and they've built this little app that tells you 25 interesting facts about why Mofo is a firm for you. And as you click on them, you get images, you get the content on the side. So totally different way of navigating. They could have had a list of them all. They could have had a carousel. But just experimenting with different ways of engaging the user. Site search. We said that the #1 way that GCs today find content is through search. When they're on your site, it's no different. You've got to provide them with that capability. We've got some great examples. Mofo, we'll use Mofo again. In the past, we've used Sidley. Sidley's got a similar thing where you type in and you get these filtered type-ahead results just like Google suggests. Mofo has just launched this capability as well. So you type in the word bank and you start to get bank financing, bank and finance in Japan. You get bankruptcy and restructuring. I was looking for bankruptcy and restructuring, so I click on bankruptcy and restructuring, and my results page come up. And I've got a few different interesting elements around the search results to keep me engaged in this process. So not only did it give me the bankruptcy and restructuring search results, which are categorized as you sort of scroll down the page, first by lawyers, then by publications, experience, content, and so forth. But at the top, it says if you're interested in that, you may also be interested in these other search terms. If you click on those, it brings up another search result. On the right-hand side, they've got best bets. They've decided that if you are interested in bankruptcy, in restructuring, whatever they put on the right side is where they want to drive you to. And they have complete control over that. So behind the scenes, they're entering in these keywords, mapping them together, and then deciding for certain keywords that we're going to map it to case studies, practice group descriptions, biographies, publications. They can fill that right side up. And before I leave, if I just want to keep track of all this stuff, they've got a Mo folder where you can add it to your Mo folder, and then you can come back and you can get this information. So if I'm doing a search and they have great information, I want to come back, I can always store that on my Mo folder and then come back. Talking about engagement, which is encouraging those repeat visits. If I've got something in a folder there, I may come back to get it. I may send it off to somebody else. I may share it. All reasons to get me to come back to the site and use it as an information resource. Jones Day search. They don't have the type ahead, but they've got this really powerful, faceted search. So once you're on the search, on the site, and you do a search, I think I did bankruptcy again, it gives you all the search results, and instead of categorizing them sort of in buckets on the page like we've seen lots of firms do, on the left-hand side, it gives you all the different types of content you might be interested in. Experience content, offices, news, and it tells you how many items are in your search result. So I did a search for bankruptcy, and I got 200 experience items in their website. What's really cool about it, when I click on experience, it filters them, brings them right up, and then I can search within the results. So if I didn't get granular enough, 200 is too many, I want to search on some particular issue related to bankruptcy, I can continue searching and filter those results down. Not only that, I can then, once I've got those results on experience filtering, I can click on lawyers and see there's 3 lawyers that end up showing up as well. So really allowing you to narrow your search results down and get to the content you want pretty quickly in a great way. And by the way, if you find that you just messed up by putting too much stuff in, you can start over at the very bottom. You don't have to leave the page and come back in. So great use of site search to engage the user, to bring them in, and show them what content is available and what might be missing. So I might be curious, I don't know, who are these 3 lawyers that actually have bankruptcy in blah, blah, blah? Look at Urban Data again. I thought they had a really interesting search. I'm actually surprised by this. I thought they would be spending all this time on other things and then really kind of forget about the search. But when I did a search for seafood, because I was interested in going to dinner, at a seafood restaurant, I clicked seafood, and it was really cool. They came up with these images. Above it is the category. So it says leisure, which is some kind of promotion they're doing, or food, which is a restaurant. They've even got a map to sort of show you where those restaurants are. And there's some other capabilities for filtering and so forth. But if you want to turn off the images, they allow you to turn off the images if you want. So pretty interesting way to invest in search and make it more interesting, more engaging. It almost feels like search/mega menu at the same time. Baker McKenzie also spent some time investing in really this mega menu concept. And they've actually brought advanced search. So not just keyword search in the drop-down of the navigation, but they put an entire advanced search screen right in front of you when you click on their lawyer section. And they've got a part on the right side of the screen, if you're looking at the right side of the screen, where they can put content, images, promotions. So another great example of bringing search up front, making it very easy for the audience to find what they're looking for and engage with the site. Remember, they don't have time to go looking for the search and click the link and then get into the next thing. You've got to put it right in front for them. All right. So you've got to make the sites memorable. You've got to engage the audience, have them spend more time on there, and have them come back to the site. But we said also that it's not good enough just to have your main website looking great. Social media is exploding. I'll skip that one. And without question, it's exploding. So the time spent on social networking sites in the past years surged 73%. Social networking sites exceeded use of web-based email by February this year. And Twitter, I get Facebook, you're on there for 20 minutes because you're looking at your friends' photos and you're seeing what's going on, you're signing up for these events that your friends are throwing parties on there. That makes sense. I get that. But Twitter, 140 characters, streamable 140 characters. The level of engagement on Twitter is extremely high, and the growth in that engagement is astronomical. So from May of 2008 through May of 2009, the time spent by the average user on Twitter went from 5 minutes to 17 minutes. That's ridiculous. If we could get users to spend 17 minutes, 5 minutes for that matter on a law firm website, but let alone 17. So very high engagement in social media, in particular with Twitter. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, I get it. College kids have all kinds of time on their hands. So I did research specifically for you and for us. What about B2B? What are some great examples of how business-to-business organizations are actually executing with social media online? And I found some really interesting statistics and research related to this. So 75% of all business-to-business purchasers now use social media as part of their decision-making process. The leading metrics, so if you're going to measure the success of your social media campaigns, it's primarily website traffic, referrals back to your site, brand awareness, and engagement. There's that word again, engagement. Everyone is talking about engagement. The increase is a 43% increase in business-to-business investment in social networking sites from last year to this year. And the two sites that they focus on are Facebook and LinkedIn. I found more business-to-business examples on Facebook than I'd ever seen in the past 2 years of doing all this research. It is growing by leaps and bounds. A fundamental shift from LinkedIn as a personal social networking site, which I think it still is, to the company-facing site within Facebook. And we'll show some great examples. So 2008, I talked about social media, and it was about experimenting. A little bit unproven, things were happening, it was new. But at the very least, what you should do is put the little sharing thing on your content. So in case someone has a friend on LinkedIn or Facebook, they can send it to them. At the time, only one law firm had that, and it was a law firm out of Australia. Today, there's tons of law firms that have these little sharing components on their website. 2009, the theme for the Innovation Forum was Be Inspired. The economy was in the tank. We didn't have big budgets to spend, but social media was free. So at least go get your space. Put your logo up there. Start doing something with it. Some firms did. Some firms didn't. Today, under our theme of taking action, do it now. And don't just put your logo up there, but you've got to integrate it into your firm's strategy. Make it an extension of your website. Make it feel like a mini site. Because that's what everybody else is doing. Porsche, great website. We saw that before. This feels like a mini site. This is their site on Facebook. They've got great imagery. They've got different campaigns running. They've got this interesting little app where you can, if you've got a Porsche or you're a fan of Porsche, you can actually build a profile that hooks it to a family tree, like they're one big community of Porsche owners. So you can pick the car, you can put what year, and then you type in a little story and you upload images, and it looks like this. You've got all these images of stories on this site. Do you think 30-year-olds own Porsches? Maybe a few in Silicon Valley. These are successful businessmen. 50-year-old, 60. These are marketing to the demographic that we all talk about. So if they're building online, interactive social media applications for sharing content for Porsche owners, I've got to think there's a play in this for the B2B and for law firms to figure out how to leverage this to engage your audiences. They're the same people. If they're on their updating their prized Porsche story, they might just shift over and spend some time on your site as well. You can also design your own color, send it to a friend. I thought this was interesting. Porsche now is a four-door sedan. Cisco, B2B, a little bit of B2C in there, but B2B. This is their main website. It looks like it's a great website. If you haven't checked out their website, it's another great example of using brand and imagery to drive engagement. The bottom, sort of middle right corner, they've got this Follow Us feature. They've got an entire URL, socialmedia.cisco.com, dedicated to aggregating everything they're doing online. Twitter, YouTube, blogs. Really interesting. And when you go to Facebook, it feels like the Porsche site. It feels like a mini site. They're running video contests and campaigns. They've got great information on what's going on. When you click the little more link, they've got polls they're running. They're doing everything they possibly can to connect with all the different types of audiences. Whether you're a consumer of their products at Best Buy, or you're a B2B customer of Cisco. There's an interesting interview with one of the social media managers at Cisco. And they talked about, why did you do this? How did you measure the success of this? And they basically said, we want to have a one-stop shop in a place where we know people already are. And we're going to leverage that channel to communicate, and we're going to invest in it. And their investment paid off. They said they're going to measure their investment based on engagement. Their definition of engagement was comments and to their posts and to the things they were doing on site. They have 54,000 people that have liked Cisco, so that's the sort of, that's the, I like this page, and I think they're doing great stuff. And their level of engagement was seen as highly successful. Each post they put on Facebook gets 35 to 45 likes or comments. This person, Autumn, her job is to go run around inside the firm. Her name isn't on the posts. She's not doing the posting. Her job is to run around inside the firm and figure out how to leverage the internal communities and bring that stuff forward out on Facebook in a way that's meaningful to the various audiences they're trying to reach, to engage them online, and then to bring them back to the Cisco site. Forrester, much more information rich, probably more like the kind of content we have for law firms. They have done a ton on this space. Gartner is the same thing. They aggregate news, events, research. Any event that Forrester's doing, it's up there on their website. They're aggregating research not only from their researchers, but from other researchers as well, that they find is interesting and compelling. These aren't college kids reading Forrester necessarily, unless they've got a term paper. These are folks like us. Ernst & Young, we've talked a lot about recruiting. I thought I would put another interesting example. I think law firms have been doing some recruiting stuff on Facebook for a while. They've got the information up there allowing these recruits to connect. They went a step further and actually built a Facebook app that helps the recruits manage the recruiting process. So it's a little miniature app that helps them work through that process. It goes beyond just interviewing for them, but it helps them interview to get jobs just generally. It's called Connect to You. So really interesting approach to leveraging Facebook essentially as a mini site. I'll skip that because I probably don't have time. But these firms that are investing in these highly interactive, engaging websites and social media platforms are also branding them. So this is the Urban Daddy Twitter page. If you took the word Twitter off the top of that, it would look like a mini site from Urban Daddy. This is their main site. If you click on one of it's a Chicago location, Twitter has a functionality now where you have to be subscribed. So you have to be sort of approved to sort of join that Twitter feed. So you have to sign up on their website, and then you've got to sign up on here to make sure that you're, so it's sort of private, essentially. Some law firms have a good start. Lathrop and Gage, Banish are two examples. There's plenty of other examples. They've got their logos up there. They've got some content going. Twitter, same thing. They're getting their news pubs, all that stuff published through Twitter, but it's still a Twitter-branded page and a Facebook-branded page. Thinking about Cisco, Urban Daddy, there's an opportunity here for firms to take the branding and the design to make it more compelling, more engaging for the user, to make it feel like an extension of their web properties. So great start, opportunity to continue to sort of build on what they're already doing. One firm that I thought would be really interesting to show you is Jackson Walker. They're a 300-lawyer firm out of Texas. They have made a big commitment to Twitter as a way to communicate and reach their audiences. In fact, they've got this really interesting call to action in the top right corner of their page. As you sit, there's like a rotating image. It says, click to sign up for RSS feeds. Or if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do that as well. And if you click to follow them on Twitter, what you get is the page on the right. It's probably hard to see from where you are. The page on the right is a list of 20 Twitter feeds that they're actively managing and posting to. Everything from general firm news to practice-specific, industry-specific information. 300-lawyer firm with 6 offices. You don't have to be Cisco to do this well. So they've got a page just like Cisco on their page. Not quite as fancy, but certainly effective. And when you actually click a link to go into their Twitter feed, it looks like the Urban Daddy one I just showed you. It's totally branded. It feels like their website. They even have their offices listed on the left-hand side. So they've taken their Twitter experience and made it an extension of the firm's website. Think about the statistics we talked about with Twitter. from 5 minutes to 17 minutes on average user. These guys are going after this to take advantage of it. Every year we also talk about events. I don't have the time to talk about a ton about what firms are doing with events and what out-of-industry folks are doing with events. But webcasting is becoming sort of pretty normal for firms. And as a result, the social media convergence with this is actually pretty phenomenal. There's one firm in particular called On24, and I'll show you an example of what theirs looks like. They've actually embedded social media elements into webcasting. So how many of you have been on a WebEx before? Yeah, everybody's pretty much been on a WebEx. You get the sound coming through, you may have a picture of somebody if you're lucky, and you get the PowerPoint slides that sort of flip through, right? They did some research. This is in partnership with Forrester. 70% of the respondents said that a social webcast was a much better experience, and the social networking tools provide a much more engaging experience for the users that are participating, and as well, like for people that actually aren't even at the event. So this is what it looks like now. So it feels like kind of like WebEx, sort of maybe. But what they've added is the ability to customize this. You can drag these little widgets all over the page. You can have we've got a profile of the person presenting. It could be their LinkedIn page. Right below that, you've got a Twitter feed. So while you are sitting there watching the event online, you can be tweeting. And as you're tweeting, imagine all of you having a laptop up and having a conversation with everybody during the session. So you can actually have conversations during a presentation about what's relevant and what's going on. And even individuals who aren't actually at the event, who are just at their desk on Twitter and following this information, can participate in that conversation. So taking events, adding a social media mix to it, and really engaging the user and users that aren't even at the event. Really huge opportunity. Twitter's also now got promoted tweets, where advertisers, marketing, can pay to have certain tweets posted as the first result. 5% click-through rate, which is pretty high, and 80% of the people that in the test they did, 80% of the firms came back to buy more. There was some other statistics that said some of the keywords on Twitter that they're going for $100,000. So similar to what Google Ads and all those things were early on, really effective, highly engaged audience, and an opportunity for them to actually make some money for once. But an opportunity for marketers to really take advantage of that medium to connect with users on particular topics. And mobile, I think, is really driving predominantly the adoption of a lot of the social media stuff. We don't have time to sit at our desk at work, but when we're waiting at the doctor's office, or we're picking the kids up from school, or wherever it is we might be, we've got the mobile device in our hand, and we can quickly and easily get on to all of these social networking apps. 112% increase in Facebook, 347% increase in the usage of Twitter from a mobile device, which is the perfect segue to make it mobile. So make it engaging, make it memorable through images, branding, design, navigation, and search. Leverage social media as an extension of your platform, and then give them the opportunity to visit you from wherever they are, and then take that opportunity to engage them. It is ridiculous, the growth of the mobile intranet. If you look at the blue and green lines, which are the ones that are the ones with the highest spike on them, that's the mobile intranet after sort of year 0 through year 5. The other lines, which are slightly lower, is the growth of the internet, the browser-based internet. So smartphone adoption, I mean, the Apple or the sort of iPhone and iTouch one's almost a vertical line. They make it so easy and so accessible to get online that the adoption rates are crazy. So 2 years ago when I was saying, here's Twitter, you should sort of consider it, and now we're here, I'm saying today, mobile technology, you should consider it, and it's growing faster than Twitter's grown. So you should sort of really consider this over the next year as you're planning for your web strategy. And there was research done by the Corporate Council on new media engagement, and they asked various demographics. They asked the same question, and they sort of shown you the results by demographics, which is, how would you prefer or somewhat prefer information delivered to your mobile device? Pretty obvious that age 30 to 39 is going to be very high, but even at age 60 plus, it was 25%. And over the next 5 years, those bars are going to shift and grow. because the 39-year-olds, sad as it sounds, I'm not going to be in that category anymore in 2 years. I'm going to be in the next one. And that bar is going to go through the roof. And I'm one of those people. So as you're thinking about your strategy over the next few years, you're going to think about the demographics and their preferred method of information delivery. I had this really interesting experience. So these are Bollé sunglasses. I got a pair on my honeymoon. I loved them, but they're beaten up. It's been 10 years. So I was like sitting in the car waiting for something. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just go buy a pair of glasses right now. I've got my iPhone. So I did a search for Bollé, and I went to the Bollé website. This is what I got. Terrible opportunity lost by them. We talked about engagement, but I didn't even get to visit. If you don't have a mobile site that's actually visitable, you will lose the opportunity to engage that person. They may find you on the social network, they may find you on the website, but if you lose them when they have the time to meet with you, they don't have time to like write it down in their notebook, and then when I get home, I'm going to call you back. They've got to do it right then. Target, on the other hand, has an unbelievable user experience in mobile. I search for the word toaster. I get back a list of toaster ovens with reviews and rankings and prices. I click on a particular toaster. I feel like I've got almost a better interface here than I have on their website. There's just less clutter. But I can add it to my registry. I can find a store that has the toaster. And we're talking about a screen that's this big, really well executed. So if you're looking for interesting examples of mobile and highly engaging interfaces for mobile, Target's got a great one. I'm going to do a few. There's another presentation today on mobile that's going to talk a lot more in depth about how you execute on mobile. So I'm just going to give you some examples just to tease you a bit. But you should definitely go to that session as well. Porsche. Great website, great social media site, great mobile site. They've got the trifecta, and the content's there. That was sort of the must-have. You go in there, you can search for dealers, you can map the dealers. You get the same information about the Porsche site, the little tidbits, and if you want more, when you drill in, it takes you off to their main site. They haven't reproduced their whole entire web experience in this, but they've given you the information that you need to make the first sort of decision process, and then if you want to go, they can refer you off to the main site. NPR is an unbelievable mobile app as well, and from what I hear, their iPad app is even better. You can search for the city that in the station that you listen to. If you listen to NPR, you can see all the programming. You can drill into programming. You can listen to it right now. You can add it to a playlist. Really interesting way to present a lot of complicated content. And this isn't just text-based content. This is audio and video content. Believe it or not, the ABA journal, which I would think would be probably less progressive, but generally, I think the design could use a bit of work on the site, but they've got a lot of interesting elements, social media elements, mobile elements. They've got an iPhone app. You know, they're actually investing in all of these things together. We talked about webinars being social. Webinars are now mobile. This is the Cisco WebEx mobile app. And this happened to me as I was trying to log in. My computer's taking forever to load, and then some issue happened, and I'm like, I got to get on this webinar. On my BlackBerry, I actually downloaded the app before my computer booted up. I was able to download the app, log into the session, and I had the WebEx going in my ear, and I was able to talk from my iPhone faster than my own laptop could boot up. Well, shut down and boot back up. So I was able to do that. Now, because I was at my desktop, I logged back in, and I just turned off my phone and then joined from the other one. But it was a pretty compelling experience. The slides were flipping through. I could hear, I could talk, I could communicate. If you are traveling like most of us do, huge opportunity not to miss some really interesting information. And for your clients who are on the road, if you're offering platforms that are mobile enabled and they've got those phones, it's a huge opportunity for you to make that connection and continue to engage them even while they're not in the office. So, keeping with today's theme, it's time for some action. I thought I would start with a look back at the action over the past couple of years. So I did a survey. I surveyed an inventory of, and I summarized a bit, but all of the engaging website recommendations in this session for the past 2 years. Not this one, but the ones prior. And I looked at every one of your law firms, and I said, if you're doing these things, you get a point. And so this is how it turned out. So there's lots of opportunity, not just in the stuff I've talked about today, but the stuff that we've been talking about for the past few years. So we're doing pretty good on design, pretty good on social presence and blogs. The other things, not so well. But there's a ton of running room for all of us, essentially, to take advantage of this. These items here, for the past couple of years, are the same items I talked about earlier today, which is engaging website design. These are the social media versions of those. Back then, it was just get a presence. But all of these things are similar to the things I talked about today. I think part of the reason that we haven't had a ton of action on those is because this has been the economic cycle. And you guys aren't alone. The president of the Web Marketing Association clearly recognizes this, that it's not just impacting law firms, it's impacting CMOs everywhere. Most firms have been running to social media because, well, it's a great, highly engaged experience, but also because it's less expensive than trying to rebuild that capability on your own site. But they're seeing a resurgence of firms reinvesting in the web and taking advantage of this as we're coming out of the cycle. And it's manifesting itself in all three of those ways, on mobile, on social, and on the website and engaging experiences. So I'll just leave you with a few parting thoughts. One, just remember that a focus on customer engagement drives loyalty and ultimately business performance. But in order to do that, you've got to break through this frazzled customer syndrome. Make it memorable, make it friendly, and make it mobile. I'll leave you with some great action quotes to just inspire you for the day and let you go eat lunch. Great. Thank you.